Hello and welcome to my weekly video blog, and today on Avo Talks Menopause I'm going to be talking about 5 symptoms that can affect your driving in the perimenopause and menopause. If you like my tips and advice, then please subscribe and remember to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of all my new videos. A few weeks ago, I posted a vlog on strange symptoms of the menopause, and one of the things I mentioned was about not parking straight. And I was just so amazed at how many of you got back and commented saying that the menopause had had a big issue on your driving. So I thought, right, let's look into this a little bit. So one of the things that we have found is that the menopause, it can have a profound effect on all areas of your health. But if your driving is affected, that's going to have another huge impact on your freedom, your independence. It may affect the way you get to work. Can you actually get to work if you can't drive? It may be that you drive for your living. It may well be that you live in rural areas where your car is your only lifeline. So I thought today I would have a look at these symptoms, how they affect your driving, and what you can do to help yourself. So number one, which is one of the biggest issues of the menopause anyway, is anxiety, fear, and loss of confidence. Now, very often, and I know a lot of you have commented on this, that just suddenly you're scared to drive. You're getting panic attacks, either thinking about it, or you're getting panic attacks whilst you're actually driving. You may find that you become much more anxious when there's a lot of traffic. When you get to junctions, you may not dart out quickly. You may take a lot longer. And of course, then if there's queues behind you, other drivers are getting impatient, and that can compound the whole feeling of panic and pressure. So what to do here is try and avoid busy times of the road. So very often it's about planning in advance what you can do to make your driving experience more copable. So just plan ahead. If you do have to go through traffic, leave a little bit earlier or leave a little bit later. And this is really important, to maybe ask at work if you can have more flexible hours so that you can fit your driving in to be more comfortable than just trying to get through the terrible traffic. Try to give yourself extra time to get there as well, so that if anything does happen, if you have to slow down, you're not then panicking about being late. Deep breathing is so important whilst you're driving, so get into the habit of learning to do lots of deep breathing. You can also look at one of the flower essences. We have confidence essence. Take your magnesium in the morning before you go out to work to calm your nervous system down. And you can also go with passion flower spray. So passion flower is very good for anxiety and stress, and you can just spray it into the mouth just before you get into your car. Number 2 is about reduced concentration and memory. And this is a really scary one. If you're driving, you have to focus, you have to concentrate, and very often it can be really difficult to concentrate more. You can zone out. I do it myself. You get to a place and you suddenly think, oh, I don't actually remember getting there. So your focus and attention has been elsewhere instead of on your driving. It may be that your concentration is that you're having to think twice about changing gears, or when to start slowing down when you get to a junction, or even when you're overtaking. So that can all be a bit more panicky in that direction. It can also be that you have to think more about where you're going. There's so many routes that we go that are just second nature, and suddenly you find you've ended up in the other side of town. I've done it. I did it last week. I was coming back from the airport, on the motorway, which I've done heaven knows how many times before, and I ended up in the wrong lane and ended up down some dark back road, and I had to find somewhere to turn and pass. So your concentration can literally dip in a second, and it's annoying, and it's very, very frustrating as well. Number 3 is reduce spatial awareness, and this is the one I had talked about before, where you might find that you can't judge the parking space. You're thinking, that's not big enough to get my car in, or like me, you end up parking like that rather than straight on. It may well be that you're having problems reversing now. You don't get your judgment right on going around the corner. And again, especially if you're doing motorway driving, you've got to be much more spatially aware when you're overtaking, other cars coming up, and how close or far away you are from the car in front as well. So that can be a really scary one. So this one is definitely take time to do all these spatial awareness ones. Maybe just drive that little bit slower, be more aware of what's going on, and maybe just run things through in your head before you actually drive. Sometimes a little bit of mental rehearsing can make a lot of difference. Just be aware though that this does ease, that all these issues, especially the spatial awareness one, it's a phase. It's all to do with the changing hormones, and once these start to ease off, you should find that that particular issue starts to dissipate as well. Number 4 is hot flushes. If you are driving and you get a whiff of a hot flush, it can be panicky, you can lose concentration, you're suddenly feeling extremely hot, your focus can go as well. So that's a really, really horrible one. So with this one, definitely the deep breathing. And I know for those of you who've been watching for a long time, one of my stories is I travel a lot. I live the other side of Glasgow, so I have to drive through Glasgow to get to Edinburgh to see some of my family. And I noticed that exactly at the same point in the road, a few miles outside Glasgow, I just got this big hot flush, and I couldn't figure it out until I realised what exactly was going on. Driving through Glasgow, for those of you who live there will know what I mean, it's so nerve-wracking, because at one point you've got 5 or 6 lanes, you've got cars coming in from the right and cutting across, cars coming in from the left and cutting across, and everybody's zigzagging and driving about 2 feet apart. So I found that I was grabbing, hanging onto the steering wheel for dear life and holding my breath, just trying to concentrate. And I realized that for those few miles, my nervous system was taking quite a battering. And then once through Glasgow, I'm like, and that's the point where the hot flush kicked in. So if you find you're getting a hot flush at the same point in the road, it may well be just how you've been driving for the last few minutes beforehand. So this is where the deep breathing really comes in handy, because as I say, I was holding my breath and that certainly didn't help. And make sure you have plenty of water with you, because dehydration will definitely compound this one as well. Number 5 is joint and muscle aches and pains. If you're starting to stiffen up, that can seriously affect your driving. You may find it more difficult to stretch to the pedals. You may find it more difficult to turn the car wheel, or even turn your head if you need to look behind you for any particular reason. Sometimes if you end up with hip pain as well, that can make it more difficult to use your feet and your legs. So, and especially long drives, I mean, driving short distances is okay, but some people find that by the time they've done a long drive, they're so stiff that they're in a lot of discomfort. So this particular one, really important, loads of water. You can try magnesium as well to help with muscle aches and pains. You can look at herbs such as devil's claw and arnica for the joint aches and the muscle aches and pains. But again, this particular one, it's usually just a phase, so just be aware that things might ease off the further through the menopause you go. So what can you do to help yourself with this particular situation? is about calming your nervous system down. So before you go out in your car, do some deep breathing, calm the nervous system, take some gentle herbs or flower essences to help calm you down. Plan well in advance. The other thing that can be really helpful, especially if you're forgetting where you're going, is to use a sat nav. And it's my family think I'm absolutely crazy because not going to work or doing local traveling, but if I'm going to visit any of the family, some of them are sort of 70-80 miles away, even though I know where I'm going, I always put the sat nav on because I find it very reassuring. So don't forget to use these little bits of technology if you can. The other thing that's really important is don't drink coffee before you drive. Because again, good number of years ago, I'd left my daughter's house in the afternoon. I'd had a really strong cup of coffee, and a little while down the road, I had the most tremendous attack of palpitations, and I honestly thought I was having a heart attack. Luckily, I was just approaching a big set of traffic lights, so I could actually calm myself down. But definitely avoid the caffeine or anything really stimulating before you go out the door. The other thing I really would advise every woman in the UK is to take your advanced driving test. There is an organisation called the Institute of Advanced Motorists. They do courses, and if you don't live in the UK, there are probably similar organisations, so really look into it. With the Institute of Advanced Motoring, I had to do it for work, and it's one of the best things I have ever done for driving. You do a short course, they get rid of all your bad habits, especially if you've been driving for a good number of years. The confidence it gives you to be able to cope, to be more aware, to get rid of that fear of driving, it is seriously worth it. If you don't want to do the whole course, they actually do a mature review. So you can go, I think it's about an hour. So you just go with an instructor and they will just point out all the things that you may be doing wrong. But honestly, if you are finding that the menopause or perimenopause is just affecting your driving, look this up and go for it, because it could make all the difference between you being so scared to drive that you don't drive again and for you to continue with happy motoring for a long time. So I hope you found this one helpful. If any of you out there have any other tips that have helped you cope with all of this driving in this day and age, then please do share them with us. And until then, I will see you next week for another edition of Avo Talks Menopause.